Army units continue to chase al-Qaeda terrorists in Aleppo and Damascus countryside. And Lavrov warns against the possibility of using chemical weapons by terrorists in Syria and its neighboring states. A secret document released by the French intelligence discloses that 130 French nationals are fighting alongside the terrorist groups in Syria. And Egypt destroys 4 tunnels on the borders with Gaza used by terrorists to launch attacks against the Egyptian army. Good afternoon, this is news in English from the Syrian division in Damascus. A secret document released by the French intelligence agency unveiled that 130 French nationals are participating in the fighting alongside the armed terrorist groups in Syria under the name of Jihad. The Central Administration of the French Domestic Intelligence said in a statement broadcast by RTL French channel that the number of French jihadists engaged in what they call the holy war over the Syrian territories continues to rise, reaching 400 persons since the beginning of the crisis in Syria. Some of them were killed and others left the country later on. Syrian army units restore security and stability to the town of Abu Ghrain south of al-Safi area in Aleppo countryside, eliminating the last gatherings of terrorists in it and destroying their equipment and vehicles, with the army destroying 2 armored vehicles and confiscating the 3rd. A military source said that an army unit killed a number of Jabhat al-Nusra terrorists and destroyed weapons and ammunition they were using. The armed forces destroyed a number of terrorist cars in al-Saqa farms in al-Nabik area in Damascus countryside. The source said that another army unit killed an armed terrorist group and destroyed its criminal tools. An 8-year-old girl was martyred and 11 others were injured, among them a woman, in a mortar shell fired by terrorists near Dar es-Salaam school in Damascus. A source at Damascus Police Command said that the shell caused material damage to the supermarkets and a number of cars in the site. The source added that another mortar shell fired by terrorists landed over a building in al-Najma Square in Damascus, causing material damage. The Minister of Health, Dr. Saad al-Naif, visited the wounded and condemned the terrorist act and targeted civilians. The delegation of European lawyers visited Jaramana in Damascus countryside, where terrorists threw mortar shells last Thursday. The shells killed 22 martyrs and wounded scores. Among the victims was the 14-year-old girl Sana Sabbagh. Human Rights Watch described the crimes committed by the armed terrorist groups against villagers in the northern countryside in Latakia in early August, which claimed many civilians, mostly women and children, as crimes against humanity.
The AFP quoted Joe Stark, Deputy Director for the Middle East and North Africa at Human Rights Watch, as saying, "These abuses were not the actions of rogue fighters. This operation was a coordinated and planned attack on civilian population." A 105-page report of Human Rights Watch issued yesterday reviewed the crimes against the villages perpetrated by armed opposition based on an investigation conducted during a visit to the area in which 35 witnesses were interviewed. The evidence strongly suggests that the killing, hostage-taking and other abuses committed by opposition forces on and after the 4th of August rise to the level of crimes against humanity, the report said. Human Rights Watch said at least 67 slain by the opposition groups were killed at close range or while trying to flee. 8 survivors and witnesses described how opposition forces executed residents and opened fire on civilians, sometimes killing or attempting to kill entire families who were either in their homes unarmed or fleeing the attack, and at other times killing adult family members and holding the female relatives and children hostage, the report added. Human Rights Watch said about 20 opposition groups took part in the crimes and that 5 were involved in the attacks on civilians: Jabhat al-Nusra, the Islamic State of Iraq and al-Sham, both affiliated to al-Qaeda, جيش المهاجرين والأنصار أحرار الشام and Sukur allies.
Egyptian armed forces have destroyed 4 big tunnels along the border with the Gaza Strip that were used by terrorists to carry out terrorist attacks against the Egyptian army, which claimed the lives of scores of Egyptian officers and soldiers. The operation came following many terrorist attacks, the last of which targeted an armed tank of the Egyptian army with 2 explosive devices, claiming the lives of an officer and wounding other 8. A delegation comprising heads of Syrian churches' visit to Russia concluded. Bishop Barakat stressed that the evil that came to Syria from abroad and the Western sanctions imposed on the country affect all the Syrian people. In a press conference yesterday, Bishop Barakat said that there cannot be a specific area for the Christians in Syria and other areas for other religions, adding that Syrians know no discrimination among persons. Bishop Isaac Barakat of the Greek Orthodox Patriarchate in Damascus stressed that the Christians in Syria are not a minority, adding that they are Syrians. For his part, Archbishop Boutros An-Nimeh of the Syriac Orthodox Church in Homs said that the Western sanctions imposed on Syria prevent a lot of materials from entering the country. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov announced that Russia and Kuwait have identical stances on the call for holding an international conference on Syria and support for the international resolution on the chemical weapons in Syria. During a joint press conference with his Kuwaiti counterpart Sabah Khalid al-Hamad al-Sabah held in Moscow, Lavrov warned of any provocations aimed to foil the process of implementing the resolution on the chemical weapons in Syria, adding that Russia and Kuwait called for convening the international conference in Syria without preconditions to achieve the goal of implementing the agreements reached in the first Geneva conference of June 30 of last year. He called upon all international players and Syria's neighboring countries and those with an influential role to work to make the conference a success. For his part, Kuwaiti Foreign Minister voiced his country's support for a political solution in Syria and the need to launch a political process and hold Geneva II conference as soon as possible and with all the details agreed upon. The Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, OPCW, was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. OPCW Director General Ahmed Ozomko expressed hope that the prize would help the states possessing chemical weapons to eliminate them. The OPCW was formed in 1997 to enforce the Chemical Weapons Convention. The Chemical Weapons Convention team currently working in Syria continued its operations dismantling a number of chemical weapons. Meanwhile, the Security Council agreed on establishing a joint team from the United Nations and the OPCW tasked with dismantling chemical weapons in Syria. A letter sanctioning this team will be sent to the United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon by permanent representatives of Azerbaijan to the United Nations Aksim Mehdiyev, as per Ki-moon's own suggestion in a recent report. All 15 members of the Security Council greenlit this letter rather than issue a resolution in order to save time. The renowned Arab artist, musician and singer Wadih al-Safi passed away on Friday at the age of 92 after a decades-long career full of creativity and artistic excellence.
The Lebanese National News Agency said that el-Safi suffered from health complications while he was at the house of his son in the town of Mansouriya in East Beirut. He was admitted to Bellevue Hospital, where he passed away. The Syrian Information Ministry and the Artists Syndicate offered their sincere condolences to his family. El-Safi will be laid to rest on Monday at St. George Cathedral in Beirut. Wadih al-Safi is considered the pillar of Lebanese music and one of the most prominent figures in Arab music. Nicknamed the man with the golden throat, whose name and voice were associated with the mountains of Lebanon. Al-Safi had a unique love for Syria and Syrians, often saying that the peoples of Lebanon and Syria are one, composing and performing 2 songs for Syria as a salute for its sponsorship of art and artists. Wadih al-Safi was born Wadih Francis on November 1, 1921 in the village of Niha in al-Shuf area. The second child in a family with 8 children, he lived a modest childhood, moving to Beirut with his family in 1938, where he enrolled in the Xavier Convent Catholic School. After 3 years, he was forced to leave school to help his father support the family. Al-Safi eventually participated in a talent show organized by the Lebanese radio, then known as the Near East Radio, winning first place in the singing category and outperforming the 39 other contestants. Al-Safi traveled to work in Egypt in 1944 and to Latin America in 1947, where he stayed for 3 years, returning to Lebanon later, where he issued his single Walau from one of the movies he appeared in, making a landmark in his career. In the following years, al-Safi became the undisputed king of singing in Lebanon and the Arab world. In 1990, al-Safi underwent open heart surgery, yet he continued to compose, sing and perform in Lebanon and abroad, and continued to cooperate with Arab and foreign artists. Al-Safi was awarded several honors, including the National Order of the Sidr, which was awarded to him by former Lebanese President Emile Lahoud.
With this, we end our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more details about Syria and the region and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our website in English, www.syriaonline.sy. Now to the latest business and market news with Nariman Qassam, but after a short break.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. As part of the efforts to curb black market currency dealings and speculation, the Criminal Security Department in Damascus arrested Hamdi al-Khatib, a notorious black market foreign currency trader and smuggler, catching him in act. More in the following.
In confessions broadcast yesterday by the Syrian television, al-Khatib said he had been trading in foreign currency in the black market for 6 years, operating from an office in al-Harika area until he was forced to relocate to a closed store in the same area to evade the authorities. Al-Khatib named some other black market traders he dealt with, including Kamal Yunus and Mahmoud Darwish, adding that he also dealt with Al-Jaja Exchange Company, which was a licensed company using black market prices with the full complicity of the company. He said that he sent money orders to Jordan and Lebanon illegally through Yunus and Darwish, dealing with Fawaz Basatne and Mu'min Marayati in Jordan, and with Jamal Basatne and Plaza Company in Lebanon, employing these accomplices to send funds to these countries to avoid detection by the authorities. Al-Khatib was caught red-handed in his office with sums in Syrian pounds, US dollars and Saudi riyals by the Criminal Security Department and a team from the Central Bank, and he confessed to his crimes on the spot.
Syria's central bank has announced that it would hold a public session next Tuesday to sell $20 million to licensed institutions for exchanging currencies to be sold later to the public in line with regulations in effect. This session comes within the framework of continuous intervention carried out by Syria's central bank to maintain stability of exchange rate to the Syrian pound. Director of Department of Studies and Awareness at Damascus Equities Market, Mr. Osama Hassan, has asserted that 700 new investors have entered the market since the beginning of this year as a result of confidence in the performance of the market and the use of new investment tools that guarantee more revenues. He further pointed out that the decline of the market's indicator at the beginning of this week's dealings had to do with the rapid gaining of revenues of leading shares, which witnessed good profits during September and last week, and which contributed in the raise of the indicator with a considerable percentage. Al-Hasaka branch of the establishment of cereals has guaranteed about 23 billion Syrian pounds to the farmers to buy the needed amounts of wheat and barley for this year. Engineer Muhammad Zaki Bakr al-Khalidi, head of the Department of Marketing at the branch, said that the quantity of the purchased wheat has exceeded 550,000 tons, while the barley exceeded 95,000 tons. He hailed the initiative of the establishment to pay fees for transporting the cereals from the field to the centers in the city to encourage the farmers and to guarantee the biggest quantities of strategic crops. Directorate of Agriculture in Idlib province has set the 1st of next month to start growing wheat and the mid of this month to start growing barley in all parts of the province. Assistant Director of Agriculture, Engineer Mohammed Noor Tako, said that the total space area to be planted is estimated at about 70,000 hectares, pointing out that granting licenses is carried out easily through facilitating measures. He expected the percentage of planted wheat for this year to exceed expectations due to less costs in terms of irrigation. The free zone in Latakia province is ready to embrace Aleppo's industrial facilities that were greatly damaged as a result of vandalizing them by the terrorist groups. The directives issued by the government have been put in implementation to transfer, reactivate and correct productive course of these facilities as soon as possible, in addition to looking for the suitable solutions to be adopted to move small and medium-sized industries that are environment friendly to the free zone land with the aim of activating cycle of production and creating new opportunities. Now over to some main currencies exchange rates according to the bulletin of the Central Bank of Syria. Ladies and gentlemen, this was our economic news for today. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.